So, what do we learn this week about Saproling-a-monium in Legacy? And obviously, we went 05, which actually isn't very surprising. So, the deck is super sweet. The idea is super sweet. Apparently, this was an old deck in Standard a long time ago. It's cool to see that being played and people trying it, but it's just not very competitive. So, there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. So, obviously, the good news is you get cool points. And killing people by intuitioning for sapling bursts and pandemoniums and reanimating it, that was really sweet. And we did do that, I think, twice. We didn't win any matches, but we did win a couple games. Maybe would have won one more if it wasn't for that crazy Ancient Tomb scenario. But when it comes right down to it, the deck has a lot of problems. Many problems. So problem one is, if you want to reanimate things in Legacy, you can do it on like turn 1 or turn 2. In our deck, even with Ancient Tomb, we're kind of looking at turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. So that's part of the problem. Part 2 of the problem is we're kind of like a 3-piece combo reanimator deck. If you look at the competitive reanimator decks, like the one we lost to in our last round, those decks, you need one creature in the graveyard, and you have a lot of them. You got Grizzlebrands, Ionas, Chancellor of the Annex. You have a ton of redundancy there, and you need one reanimation spell. You need a reanimate, an exhume, you name it. There's a bunch of options there as well, an animate dead. So there's just massive redundancy. In our deck, we need exactly one Saproling Burst or more, exactly one Pandemonium or more, and exactly one Replenish. So we need 3 separate pieces of our combo, and we need each of them to be able to go off, and we have 0 redundancy. Like, getting 3 Saproling Bursts in our graveyard doesn't do anything. Getting 3 Pandemoniums in our graveyard doesn't do anything. Drawing a bunch of Replenishes and no way to get stuff in the graveyard doesn't do anything. So those are kind of the 2 big issues. Basically, number 1, there's just better ways of winning with Reanimator. Probably not cooler ways. This is definitely one of the most unique and interesting ways of going about it, but as far as being competitive, those are some of the major issues. The other big thing was the transformational sideboard plan, and on paper it seemed really sweet. Like, the theory is cool. Your opponent brings in all this graveyard hate to deal with the combo, and we saw that in some matchups, surgical extractions. We actually lost a game to double surgical extraction, hit both of our combo pieces. We literally couldn't win. So it looks like a sweet plan to be like, all right, you bring in all these dead graveyard hate spells, we're going to bring in all this Stoneforge stuff, Stoneforge Mystics, Batterskulls, True Name Nemesis, and be kind of like a bad Stoneblade deck, but hopefully a good enough Stoneblade deck because the opponent's going to have these bad sideboard cards to fight against our reanimation plan. So that plan seemed solid on paper, but once we played with it, there was a couple problems. So big problem number 1 was we have all these thought scours and mental notes and stuff designed to put cards in our graveyard. So we actually lost a game because we randomly milled one of our Batterskulls. And even though we got a Batterskull, got a Stoneforge Mystic, we're grinding out value, looking in really good shape at one point. Our opponent was able to get a window where we had to bounce Batterskull back to our hand. We were being really careful to leave up mana so we wouldn't get got by removal on our Batterskull, and they were able to surgically extract the Batterskull from our graveyard, get the one out of our hand, then all of a sudden we had no win conditions. So the way our deck is built actually kinda didn't completely fizzle the graveyard removal. We actually somehow went through the transformational sideboard plan and still lost to graveyard removal, which is kind of a big issue. The other big thing is, because we're playing 9 or 10 cards in this transformational package where we literally take out the entire combo, bring in all these Stoneblade cards, it means we don't have ways to force our combo through. So the other problem we ran into is in matchups where we didn't transform our sideboard, our opponent brings in Pyroblasts, brings in more counter spells, brings in maybe more Force of Wills if they don't have all 4 in their main deck. So they bring in all that stuff, and we don't have stuff to bring in to counteract that. We're still playing our main deck with 3 Force of Wills, no other way to force through our combo, so our opponent has way more answers for our combo than we have answers for our combo, and it just wouldn't work out. It was so hard to resolve any of our combo pieces post-board, and we still have the normal problems where Force of Will can really get us. It helps that we have 3 forces in the main deck. That is a benefit, and it means we can kind of fight through one piece of disruption sometimes if we get lucky enough to draw all of our combo pieces, but it's still not a lot of interaction for a combo deck, and I don't know. I just can't shake the feeling that this deck is super neat, and like if you want to go to a Legacy FNM or Legacy tournament and have everyone be talking about how you intuition for Saproling verse and Pandemoniums and maybe got to win that way, I think it's a great deck for that. It's gotta be the most unique and one of the coolest ways you can play a reanimation strategy in Legacy, but on almost every front, it's not very good. There's either just strictly better options, faster options, more redundant and resilient options available that are doing the same thing, or just faster ways of doing it. So as far as fixing the deck, I don't know if it exists. I mean, we can't get around the lack of redundancy problem. That's the big one. We could get rid of the transformational sideboard plan, which would mean we would lose to more graveyard removal after sideboarding, but we would actually have sideboard cards to bring in to fight against stuff and force through our combo. So that would be one possibility, but I think the final nail in the coffin of this deck, which means apart from being the fun, interesting deck we were talking about, where you just like have everyone go, wow, I can't believe you're doing that, it's so sweet, while you steal a match or a game every now and then and lose, the final nail in the coffin is just a lack of redundancy and having 3 separate cards that we need to draw and find and resolve or get into our graveyard. And there's just no way around that. There isn't backup Saproling Burst, there isn't competitively costed backup replenishes, there isn't backup Pandemoniums, so it's just, I don't know if there's a way to really make it into a competitive deck. So I'm glad we tried it. I wish we had actually won a match. We did get some sweet game wins, but when it comes right down to it, it's an against the odds deck, not a competitive Legacy deck. So if you want to play it for fun, check out the combo, go for it. The combo does work when we draw all our pieces. We just don't draw all the pieces often enough to really make it a competitive deck. Anyway, that's been our Against the Odds for this. See, I'm even calling it Against the Odds now. That's been our Much Abrew About Nothing for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.